We all know that Sony has come out and talked about the PlayStation 5 tech demo. They've shown great gameplay that shows off their first-party development teams, and overall, they've had a pretty awesome week. But that doesn't mean Xbox isn't having just as great of a week. And to be honest, they might actually have a lot more positive news going their way. And after that Inside Xbox, things are starting to shine a little bit more about that event that might not have been known before. One of which is the games that were shown at that event are truly next generation titles. And plenty of them are exclusive to the Xbox Series X and can't be run on current generation consoles. And some are even hinted that they can only be run on the Xbox Series X and not other next generation hardware. That's right, you heard me. A developer has come out and talked about the Xbox Series X and how it's allowed them to make their game without anything holding them back, which in turn would indicate that the current generation hardware or even some other hardware would limit them in some capacity. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like the Inside Xbox show, which everyone's entitled to their opinion. But for me, I actually enjoyed the games that were on display, and I'm even more excited to see what these developers can accomplish when they work exclusively on the next generation hardware Xbox will provide us. So let's dive into this interview and see exactly what one of the developers had to say about the Xbox Series X. This actually might surprise you. But like always, if you liked the video, hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. Alright, enough of that. Let's dive into this interview with Ps5, the people behind that crazy looking horror game that was shown on the Inside Xbox show. And this article points out what type of game it is, but also raises the question if the game will be coming to other platforms, if the developers open to sharing why they chose the Xbox Series X. Here's what the article starts off by saying. One of the more interesting titles we saw at the May 7th Xbox Series X event was Ps5's Scorn. It is an atmospheric first-person horror adventure game set in a nightmarish universe of odd forms and somber tapestry. It's easy to say that when Scorn was shown, it was both disturbing and interesting. Like most third-party games that release on the Xbox platform, there's always a question of if the game will release on opposing platforms like PlayStation. As we know, the game is releasing on PC via Steam, but could it also release elsewhere? According to the Storm's Steam store page, this game is a console exclusive to Xbox Series X for several reasons. Now, I know most of you saw that trailer that had a couple of disturbing elements attached to it. The game looked intense and honestly made a lasting impression on a lot of people that tuned into the Inside Xbox show. And while the artistic direction the game took is very eye-catching, the most intriguing thing about it was that it will be an Xbox console exclusive. Now, when that gets thrown around for a third-party game, the first question media types have is, well, will it ever come to PS4 or PS5? Is it coming to PlayStation? This happened to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and it's happened with countless other games. And usually a developer has to mince their words and kind of work around that question. Well, not Ps5. Instead, they came out and talked about why exactly they picked the Xbox Series X instead of other platforms outside of the PC. Here's what was said when they were asked the question about the Xbox Series X. Why Xbox Series X? It was a simple decision. Xbox Series X is very capable hardware on par with high-end PCs that will run the game at a technical standard of 4K 60 FPS that we aim for Scorn. More so than the 4K resolution, having the game run at 60 FPS with a certain visual fidelity is imperative for us as developers. Now, we all have talked about the power that the Xbox Series X will have, especially on the graphical aspect of the machine. We know that the next generation console will have everything needed for developers to make a very good looking game. The graphics won't be held back at all, but what most people don't understand is that the CPU that's going to be in the machine is going to set the standard when it comes to consoles. This CPU will bring balance to everything that developers would do when creating their games. And that's what's said here when they talk about hitting 4K 60 FPS on their game. Don't get me wrong, hitting 4K and 60 FPS is a massive accomplishment for everyone involved. But like the quote says here, the resolution isn't the main thing. It's that they can hit that resolution and get the high visual fidelity while also being at 60 frames per second. That's what's most important to them because let's be honest, the game they're making does look crazy and the fidelity the game is aiming for is very high. And Xbox seemed like the right choice for them to actually accomplish this. But not only that, Xbox also provided extra resources for them to get their game out there, but also helped them get the game seen by more fans. Here's what else the developer had to say. Why Microsoft and why Xbox Series X exclusivity? The authenticity of the game and being able to develop it as we conceptualize is at the highest priority. Before deciding to partner with Microsoft, we made sure they will not have any influence over the game's concept and development process. They were more than cooperative in that regard. The only thing they were interested in was exclusivity rights. Once all that was agreed upon, it was a no-brainer decision when you look at all the benefits Scorn will get from this partnership. From additional resources to much bigger exposure, marketing. It will certainly help us make Scorn a better, polished game in the end. I find this to be one of the best quotes from the interview because while we know the Xbox Series X is the most powerful and capable console next generation, we also know that Xbox isn't sitting on their hands when it comes to bringing content to the Xbox platform. Instead, they've been securing massive games for the platform and making them exclusive. That includes third-party games like Scorn, which the developer said Xbox didn't interfere with at all. Instead, they helped make the game even better. And I think that has to do with helping them understand the Xbox Series X even better, along with helping them get much more exposure with marketing. Xbox has been on the hunt for great developers that have amazing ideas for games. We have Scorn, Call of the Sea, and of course my personal favorite, The Ascent. All of these games have been helped by Microsoft and Xbox in some capacity. You throw in the developers praising the Xbox Series X and you have a very symbiotic relationship that could turn into great relationships between both parties. It's great to see Xbox actually do this. But that's not all the developer had to say about the matter. They were even asked about the current generation systems and if they'll release the game on the PS4 or Xbox One. Here's what they had to say. Will Scorn be released on the previous generation of consoles? No. We really don't want to spend development time on what would, from a technical standpoint, 900p resolution, frame rates dipping below 30 FPS, be a subpar version of the game, and overall not a good experience. This is great to see developers not compromising on their vision. Not to mention it shows that developers aren't afraid to move on from the current generation consoles if it affects the game they're making. Will this affect their sales figures? Of course it will, because they're relying on high-end PC gamers and hardcore console gamers that will buy the Xbox Series X day one for them to buy the game. But mainly it shows that the current generation consoles won't hold back developers. That's been something a lot of people have been trying to say for a very long time, that developers won't move their games exclusively to the next generation consoles. Well, there's been multiple developers, including the developers behind Scorn, that will be more than happy to move their game to next-gen console exclusivity. This is possible because their game is only possible on the top hardware that the next-generation consoles will provide. And some developers even chose Xbox because it has that hardware that's capable of running high-fidelity games at 4K 60 FPS. That to me is a massive advantage that I think Xbox needs to exploit a little bit more. Showcase a few more games that run at high fidelity with amazing frame rates to show what the hardware is capable of. This Scorn game could have been a showpiece on that Inside Xbox show if they gave the game a little more context, or went into it a little bit more, much like this interview did. It shows what the hardware is capable of, not to mention it shows what talented developers can accomplish when given uncompromising hardware like the Xbox Series X. It's a win-win, and I hope that Xbox and developers that work with Xbox start doing this more often. Let's hope the June and July show that Xbox has coming up shows more in-depth analysis like this, because it's honestly fascinating to me and I think it could be a really good marketing strategy for Xbox to promote their next generation console. But enough about what I think about all of this. Tell me what you think about all of this. Are you shocked that Ps Software said this about the Xbox Series X? Do you believe the Xbox Series X is that much more powerful than their competitor? Do you think more developers will abandon the current generation consoles? Can the PS5 run this game at the same fidelity, resolution, and frame rate as the Xbox Series X is capable of doing? Was this a jab at the PlayStation 5's power? Do you think Xbox has more third-party deals signed that we haven't seen yet? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support helps out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter at Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there. So get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamer tag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. Currently, I'm on my PS4 playing The Last of Us, and I've been jumping back into Sea of Thieves. They've had some awesome content updates, and I've been going really hard on that game with my buddies. We're having a blast sinking everybody around us. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.